I
Like
can't see
we're
any
kicking
chat
it
stuff. So.
off. All right. Well, hi everyone. How is everyone doing? We are trying to solve technical issues as always because there's only one person doing the technical work and he's talking right now. So, if you can hear us, can you let us know in the chat, please? I think I've seen something already. Uh, It's late. Hurry up. Okay, yeah. Okay, you can hear us. Great, awesome. Well, thanks everyone for joining in, and hopefully we'll have people coming in very soon. So what I want to do today is very informal. Let's answer a question, give us some tips about Leadville 100 mile. Either you're racing this year or in the future, or you're supporting someone. And I think I have some experience with that, but I brought some guy that has a lot of experience. And we have Brian with us. Coach Brian, thanks for joining us. So
Thanks for
for
having me,
those not,
Simon. Excited to be here.
yeah, absolutely. And for those not familiar, so Coach Brian and I, we were hosting the Buckle Up podcast last year, and Brian is still doing that. I didn't have enough time to continue with that, but Brian has a lot of experience. He has a coaching business. You can see it, his altitude endurance coaching. So if you want some coaching, go reach out to him. He has done Leadville. I don't know how many times you've started, but I know that you've finished 9 times, which means that this year might be number 10 for Buckle, and that is extremely impressive. So, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate that. The format we're going to use today, guys, you can drop comments, say hi in the chat. If the chat is active, it makes the discussion much more lively. If it's not lively enough, then you'll hear more of me talking instead of answering question. But what we want to do is really go basic tips, but also advanced tips. We both have sub 25. We both have Leadmans. And at the same time, we both understand that that's not the goal of everyone. Some people want to go just below 30 hours. And in fact, that's what we've done sometimes. Um, Leadville is a tough race. It's a tough race, but it's a great race. And there's a lot to talk about here. So, with that being said, I let Brian talk for a second, at least to say hi properly. Where are you, Brian, right now?
It's a great question, Simon. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited. This is my 10th Leadville. To go back to one of your first questions, I have started Leadville 11 times. I have two DNFs, one in 2011 and the second one in, I think it was 15 or 16. I can't recall what year it was, 2015 or 2016. Were one of the years that I DNF'd. And so I have 9 finishes. Two of those 9 are Leadman. So I did the bicycle. One of those years was with you. And actually, I'm wearing a shirt from my first 50 miler at Leadville, which is the Silver Rush. This is the 2010 shirt from Silver Rush
That's the
Run.
shirt they gave at Silver Rush? Are you
Yeah,
serious?
they used to be cool. Like way back, way cool. This is old
Yes.
school cotton. This is real
Wow.
cotton. It's probably not the best shirt. I'm getting smoked by the sun right now. But yeah, yeah.
This is
One of the
this is
first
this
original Silver Rush shirts.
wow. I it's so Brian is a very honest guy and I know he's telling the truth. It's hard to believe, but wow. That is absolutely crazy. I mean, it's written Leadville, Silver Rush. I guess it's true.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. And actually, one of the things that is interesting also is that we do have different perspective. Brian being an well, older runner, definitely not, but I mean, not a young buck, but also you live at altitude ish, and I live at sea level, which I think gives a lot of perspective because. From my point of view, Leadville is a great race because it's a historical race, but it's a kick in the nuts because of the altitude. How would you describe Leadville yourself, living not at sea level?
Yeah, it's a great question. I live at 7,000 feet. I live about an hour and 40 minutes from my house to get around. I have to drive east towards Denver to get to Leadville. So I live west of Leadville on the map. And the altitude doesn't affect me as much as it does others in that boat. I live way closer to 10,000 feet and I'm able to get there and train there as well. Just last weekend, actually, I was at Hope Pass and did an over and back over 12.6, 12.7. I did a 13er the day before that, and I'm able to get up high and train there, which really helps. And I understand that most people can't do that. So
Yeah.
So I guess I have an advantage there. But I am aging up every day. I think we all are. But I am 51 years old. I have, of those 9 finishes, I have 2 big buckles and then 7 sub 30 buckles. A few of them, more than I'd like, are in that golden hour. So there you have it.
It's not about the size of the buckle. It's how you use it that matters. Everyone knows that. But yeah, so but the point I think for me is really like we have a broad range of experience. Like we've done like fast ones and we've done slow ones. We've done when we were young or older, from sea level, from altitude. So feel free to ask really the question that are relevant for yourself. And I think maybe sometimes Brian will have a better perspective on that. Maybe I will have a better perspective. And keep in mind also, Brian is actually a coach, right? Like he's coached, I'm sure, many athletes that have done Leadville or similar race and has seen things that have worked or not worked. And because of that, I really encourage everyone to to ask whatever question. There's no, Brian, I was teaching at university for a little bit, and one of the main time I got in trouble was telling my student, "Don't worry, there's no stupid question." Then I paused, and they felt pretty good, and I said, "Only stupid people." And apparently, that's not something you should say. So, no stupid people, no stupid question,
Well,
all the same.
Simon, that's right. I do have a coaching business. I've been
Yeah.
coaching full time for the last 2.5 years, but I've been coaching since 2018 when my wife encouraged me to start my own business. I started it as a grassroots project. It's grown, and of course, hindsight's 2020. I wish I did it way sooner, but here I am now. I guess in the last 3 years, I've probably had 20 athletes at Leadville. Um, Obviously, I've done it quite a few times and have a lot of experience with it. Have had athletes stay at my house leading up for acclimation up into the race and all sorts of things. So yeah, lots of experience
Yeah.
at Leadville.
And we have really good friends also, Mark and Leon. I mean, what makes Leadville special for me, and there's a reason, guys, why like we're losing time on that, is that Leadville is a meaningful race, and the more meaningful the race, the more likely you're gonna push for it. When let's just say it won't go smoothly for 25 or 30 hours. It will really suck balls at some point. And when you build yourself a purpose, that's really, really helpful. I know it sounds cliche and bullshitty, but it is very true. And for me, every time I've done Leadville, except the first time where it was just for the Grand Slam, but it's always coming back. And then I have my friends. I have Brian, I have Mark, I have Leon. And shit, I mean, Mark and Leon, they proposed, I think, on the course, and they got married on the course. Like that's how important the race is for them. And if you can find yourself some really deeper meaning, that's gonna be helpful. If you're just doing it to do it, that's fine too. I'm not saying you necessarily need to get married on the course to do a sub 25. I'm just saying it's helpful. But yeah, so with that being said, I'm curious in the chat and just who's there, where are you from, and start asking your question, because what we're going to do is we're going to go first through general tips that we have to prepare for Leadville, race Leadville. And then, of course, as soon as we see question popping up, and I think we can see I don't know if you see my mouse, but we can see the chat on the top corner somewhere. Oh, it's reversed, sorry. Here, which we're going to address. We also have some question coming from Facebook, coming from Instagram, and also coming from ChatGPT, asking what are the common questions for Leadville runner. And we want to address as many as possible. Look, if ChatGPT is allowed to ask a question, I think you should ask a question too. So we have, and I saw it before, we have Jeff, who's in Florida, and we raced together the Grand Slam in 20... Wow, Jeff, you'll have to remind me which year it was, but I remember that altitude was kicking your butt a little bit, I think.
2021 or 2023?
Yeah, it was definitely post-COVID, but 2022 we have Jeff saying that. Oh, and by the way, Greg, who pays me at Cocodona, is actually doing High Lonesome right now, so I'm sending good vibes to him. He's everywhere. He was at Hard Rock, he was at Western States, so I really hope that everything goes well for him. All right, so we have New Jersey, yeah, Tampa 0 feet. Oh, so we have several people from Tampa. So Florida is very present, and as always, Florida people. You wouldn't think as mountain runner, but they're really chill. I'm going back for long haul probably next year. Just saying it. And boys, is it boys? How do you say Jeff? Brian, you Boise? Boise.
Boise, Idaho.
Boise. Thank you. Thank you. All right.
Boise, Idaho. Boise, Idaho.
All right. All right. So, Brian, I'm gonna actually. What do you prefer? I give some general tips, or you want to start? Do you have some ideas what you would say for that?
I got one. I'll just go with it. I
Okay.
think the question I get a lot is about fitness, and I think one of the one of the things I preach a lot and I hear a lot from my coaching friends and my colleagues in the space is that fitness is king, and we say that pretty often. What that means is wherever you're at, whether that's Minnesota or Florida or New York City, and you're trying to get into Leadville, you're already in, you're about to run the race. Fitness is king, and doing the work is the most important thing. Just coming and showing up fit. We can sort of work out the nuances as we go along in a coaching process, but really just do the work. Get into a routine, do your interval work during the week, do your strength training, do your mobility stuff, and get your long runs in on the weekend, right? I mean, that's pretty much how we all kind of survive. But fitness is king. So basically, keep running, keep staying fit. Yes, you're going to have problems with the altitude, and we could discuss those. Yes, you'll probably have um, some concerns about cutoffs and paces that needed to get to make the cutoffs, and we can address those as well. But really, just do the work. Fitness is king.
Yeah, and that's interesting. We had a question that was basically saying how close to 100% do you have to be to line up for Leadville? And I lost the question in the chat, but that's where was it? I'm sure I saw it. I'm not crazy, guys. Uh, yeah, okay, it was Sira no. Oh man, I can't pronounce. I'm so sorry. But I think for me, fitness is always relative. If I go and line up for Leadville, I don't need to be 100%. Like I took 3 months not racing, not doing anything else, just preparing for that. What is you have to be 100% in my mind is you have to be 100% healthy. And by healthy, I don't mean like, oh, like you're not fat or anything. What I mean is you don't have an injury because I think that Leadville is one of those races that you do have to run and you do have to be fast, both on the downhill and the uphill. And if you have an injury coming in, um, I don't know what's their like postponing policy, but it's one of those races I would say don't just push for it. I did a mistake myself, and if you've seen like recently, I had a video about my injury. I pushed at Cruel Jewel. That was stupid, but at least Cruel Jewel, I kept telling myself it's a race. I could walk the whole time, and that's fine. But that's not something you can do at Leadville. So come in 100% healthy, fitness wise. The more the better, but you don't have to obsess about it. Do the work, trust the process, and we all come in. At least for me, I feel like I'm never 100%. I always feel like through my training cycle, there has been problem, and then there's a week I was not doing my work, and I feel bad about it. Um, I don't know if you disagree with that, Brian.
I don't disagree. I think the only thing I would add to it is I guess it just depends on if it's your A race or not. Simon,
Yeah.
you're maybe the anomaly that races quite a bit, has lots on your calendar, and so you're able to get along in Leadville at 90, 85%, 90% and stay healthy and get through that race. But I think others that are coming in, maybe if Leadville's your A race, of course you want to come in at 100%. You want to do
Yeah.
a full taper, come in as fresh as possible, and get reap all those benefits from the training and those adaptations.
Yeah, for sure. And just to be clear, like I'm not saying like just like wing it. Of the race that I'm stressed in my calendar year, Leadville is usually one of those. I'm like, shit, like oh, I meant poopy. I can't just like say whatever. Like you have to have a certain level of fitness. You can't just grind through Leadville because you do have to have some level of speed. And the fitter you are, the less you will need to rely on other things like being like adapted to altitude or mental toughness or these things. Like these things are bonuses, but if you don't even have the fitness, it's going to be a problem. So I wouldn't cancel if you feel that your training cycle hasn't been perfect, but I would take it seriously through training. And going into preparation, also, we have a question from Ryan B saying, what's the best substitute for altitude training? He's at like 500 feet, so pretty high compared to me. Do you have a substitute, Brian? I know you're at altitude, so maybe you're not the best one for that, but maybe some of your athletes that have performed well despite being sea level.
Yeah, that's right. I got two things for that. One is uphill treadmill. We're doing 2-a-days right now. I do have an athlete in Florida that's going to be running Leadville this year. So she's doing 2-a-days. She gets her running in the morning at sea level. I mean, she lives like in a, I don't know, it looks like a swamp on a map, but it's like really watery and low level. And then at nighttime, after she goes to work, she eats her dinner, and then she gets on the treadmill for like 40 minutes and just starts cranking uphill as hard as she can for 40, 50 minutes. On the weekend, she's taking her long run and chopping a little bit of it off and adding that same treadmill back on, maybe in 80 minutes or so, and adding that treadmill back on. That's the uphill part, but I also think that there's a huge component to the downhill part that a lot of people don't address. And really, it's hard to address. The treadmill doesn't do 10% grades downhill, so we supplement that with strength training and doing
Yeah.
specific works, RDLs, lunges, and squats to kind of build those downhill muscles as best as possible.
Yeah, yeah, totally agree with that. And I myself, I just posted super recently like a video about altitude training and that adaptation. And I think substitute is a word that I wouldn't necessarily use because it's super smart. Get as fit as possible. For me, it's increase your VO2 max, increase your strength to strengthening session. But if you could, on top of that, come in 1 or 2 weeks ahead of time, there will be a benefit that you will notice from these 1 or 2 weeks. So you can alleviate the impact of not being altitude acclimated, but I don't think you can necessarily replace. Like I think the only way you could actually replace it is if you were taking EPO or something like that, which is obviously not something I would recommend. But it just shows that if you've tried Leadville and you felt you had a good training cycle and you really struggled and you didn't finish, I would say you could almost try the same thing next year, but come in Colorado 2 weeks ahead of time and do that altitude training, and these things will be additive. It's not you can do this,
Mm-hmm.
you can do this instead of it's so funny this. You can do both, and you might not need the altitude acclimatation if you're able to do everything that Brian said. But if you struggle with that, then there's always this bonus that you could have. And then we have a question from Eric. So Eric said that he finally finished in 29:32 last year. So congratulations. 29:32 was probably, you might have seen Brian actually in aid station sometime.
I was
Brian,
29:21. I was 11 minutes ahead of you, Eric.
it's Brian just loves this thing where like he gives us a heart attack. He's like, if I'm not doing sub 25, I'm just gonna make you stress all the time. And the wife, he's super worried all the time, because there's different strategies. We have a friend whose strategy is even more intimidating than Brian's. I think if we would make like a statue of Mickey, life-size statue, there would not be enough iron in the world to like make his balls, you know, like he goes like crazy at the start, but then he blows up. I have the opposite strategy, and Brian is kind of in between. You always start ahead of me, and at some point I will see you, which of course that's when you're slowing down, and that's when you really struggle, which is it happens to all of us, right? And then I was like, oh man, Brian is not gonna finish, what's gonna happen? And then I keep stressing about it until you just like coming in 29:20. Anyway, point is, congratulations, Eric. that is amazing for the 29:32. So what do we think are the key component in training to go from a meh 29 to a sub 25? I will start with that. I don't think there's a meh 29. Honestly, I think a 29 is deceptively difficult to get. Again, Brian is not like a bad runner at all. I think a 29 is really tough. For me, the difference between my sub 25 and my, like, how you call it, right? Like a meh, I'm a little disappointed with the performance, has been much more the race performance and how I've performed in the race. And that has played much more in the last, from 60 to 100. For me, that's when I kind of gave up a little bit. And sometimes just like I'm close, when I was close to sub 25, I really pushed for it and I went like all the chips or all the card on the table or whatever. But as soon as I decide like I'm struggling now, and then I slow down. That's when I did more my 27, 28, 29s. Um, I think if you have the ability to be there and acclimate to altitude on top of like the high intensity workout, that's a huge difference. If you have not done that, huge difference. Because for me, when I was not able to acclimate as much, also I struggle with everything. It's not just that you get tired, it's also I struggle with fueling, I struggle with sweating more than usual, and it's just compounding, and then I lose energy, and then I lose energy, I lose motivation, then I'm in pain, and I'm just like, I'm okay with a 30-hour cutoff. And then last piece I would say is also race strategy. I think the beginning of the race is not really different, but you do your first 60-mile with the mindset of conserving energy so that I can keep going for the last 40, from Twin Lakes to the finish line. It's not just I'm gonna grind it. Like, you're still rolling, and that's where for me my mind has just like switched on the time that I was not doing sub 25. What was the big difference for you, Brian?
I would say, to Eric's question, I would say there's two things that I consider. I know I was 11 minutes ahead of you, Eric, so I know that I walked quite a bit, and I walked a significant amount more than I have when I've gone sub 25, and I've had a bigger impetus of moving more efficiently throughout the whole day. Of course, for me, the wheels fell off, things happened. I sat at the top of Hopeless for way too long, probably 40, 50, 60 minutes or something like that. And all these things, transpire, and I get that what's happens. But I think, to answer Eric's question, I would say, Eric, you need to kind of look at what exactly you did right and well, and where you make more gains. And that's really just an individual type of question.
Yeah.
I don't know if you need more hill work and you exploded on the hills, or if you walked more of the flats where you could have ran them. So it's just kind of like it's an odd question to answer for a group of people.
Yeah.
More specifically, I think you need to look inside of your own performance last year and kind of figure out where there's room for improvement. Did you run mostly all the 40 miles to Twin Lakes outbound, and a majority of the miles inbound from Twin Lakes home? How well did you climb, and were you efficient? Were you picking people off one or two, or were they picking you off 3 and 4 at a time? So those are all the questions I think that you need to answer yourself.
It, it's a parenthesis, but that's why I wanted Brian, because your answer is so much better on this one. Like, I really focus on myself, but it's true. It's very personal, and I either you do the introspection, sometimes working with someone with experience like Brian, or like there's plenty of coach, right? But like with someone else, or friends, that's how you actually find like what's actually the thing that you should do yourself differently. And we had Jeff Grand from Madison, Alabama. So hi from people that I asked where you're from. I'm sorry that I'm not responding. I am reading it here, but for me it's here. So that's why I'm looking that way sometimes. But we'll go with the question we have. We have Sammy, just did my last race before Leadville. Pretty sore after. Yeah. That's a good sign. That means that you raced. What do you recommend to recover in the best way post-race, since I also have other races planned for the year? I think for me, the best way to recover is active recovery as soon as you can do it, but don't rush it. And active recovery doesn't necessarily mean running, but if you can run or jog, that's great. But sometimes it will be cycling, it will be swimming. There's definitely something to be said about activating blood flow in the muscle that are sore. Now, there's really two things. And that's where again I need to be self-focused a little bit. But when it's muscle, then I know that active recovery will help. Like muscle soreness, great. Like that's what I need. What I need to be careful is when it's joints, like ankle or Achilles ligaments soreness, then that's a sign of inflammation, and inflammation sometimes will need some ice, some rest, more than like moving, and that's where doing something else than running can be helpful. So by doing something like low impact, like swimming, which also increase your range of motion, for me that's usually very beneficial. The other thing, of course, is to realize that your body has been through a lot, and you need to recover, and recovery means sleeping and eating. Don't myself, like, I don't count the calories when I'm in recovery. I'm just eating. My body is saying like, you want to eat that whole bag of chips. I guess that's what I'm doing. Of course, at some point you stop doing that, but at the beginning, I don't count like, oh, like what about my weight? No, no, no. Like my body is signaling that I need this right now, and I'm not being lazy, sleeping in the morning or going to bed early. It's just my body trying to catch up a little bit. Any other tips, Ryan?
I think we need to use those the metrics, the markers on our watch, the HRV and the resting heart rates. Those are great markers to just keep an eye on. You should know what they are prior to your event, and just don't start doing it in recovery, because that's a lost art right there. You don't really know what the numbers are. But if you're continuing to follow those numbers, your resting heart rate and your HRV, you start to get into a pattern of what they are. And then you could see ramping up to the race how you were recovered and go into the race, and then how you need to recover after the race and how much time your body needs. I'm not saying that you shouldn't work out until you're back to a normal number, but just keeping an eye on those numbers. As they start to drop, you could add a little bit more, maybe some indoor cycling or outdoor cycling, but just some easy movement. I like cycling because it's the same, mostly the same direction as running. It's that forward leg drive, but it's really less impact on the body. So all those things, and you're Simon, and then Simon should not get on a bike, but everyone else should get on a bike and do some recovery.
I'm not judging people. It's we all have our face. If you were a gut kid in your prior life or you were a cyclist, I'm totally fine with that. I'm curious, like following up, like you say, you use the resting heart rate and HR. Do you recommend having something else than the watch itself, like a wrist, not a wrist, but an armband or like a chest band, or you think that the wrist heart rate is good enough?
So I use the wrist heart rate. I have athletes that use the Aura ring, and they swear by it. They really do enjoy that aspect. We don't sleep with the chest bands or the armbands on. I feel like I created my range of good numbers from the wrist data in my watch with sleeping on it. I trained myself to sleep with the watch on, which is part of a little bit of a process. But once I got used to it, now I can't sleep without it.
Yeah.
But I think because I'm getting a number, and now I'm consistently creating that same number, I know when it rises or falls, and where I fall into that need for recovery, or I'm fully recovered, or I'm using a good taper to get into the next event. So I think just doing the same process over and over. I'm not saying that the watch wrist is the best course of action, but it gives us a good baseline. And as long as you're using it consistently and not changing the process between a ring and a chest strap and a heart rate wristwatch, all those things, if you just use one consistently, you should be able to get some good numbers out of that.
Yeah. I think that's a great point, actually. Yeah. Sometimes we focus on precision rather than change. And even if the number that the watch is giving is inaccurate, the fact that for whatever reason, like your heart rate has varied, that means that there's something going on with your body, and that's sufficient information to know that you're not fully recovered. Whether
Totally.
it's accurate or not to what is your actually heart rate at rest, like that's like, who cares? I think that's super smart, man.
Totally.
We have a question from Mark from Connecticut. So hi from Connecticut, East Coast. And that's actually why we did relatively early, so we could have people on the East Coast also. So cooling strategy and fueling strategy. Apparently I was going sub 25, but then I reached the top of Hope Pass, and I said that's not gonna happen. I'm not sure which video it would be specifically, if that's referring to me. But I would say that for myself, that's about the time. Like, we'll answer the question for sure, but I know the race enough and myself enough that around finishing Hope Pass for the first time, I have a pretty good feeling what's left in the tank. And knowing what I need to reach a sub 25, I can pretty early on make the call that this is not going to happen. And it's also looking at how much I've been fueling, if it's been efficient or not, and be able to say like, yeah, I'm gonna struggle tonight. I'm gonna be sleepwalking, because sleepwalking, at least for me, is very often because I'm not fueling enough. It's not that I'm actually sleepy; it's because I don't have the energy through carbs. When it comes to cooling and fueling strategy, that is a great question. Leadville can be pretty hot, but it can be pretty cold also. And when you're at altitude, these difference, like when it's hot, and it's hard to cool down because water evaporates so quickly, and when it's cold, it's really cold. Um, I focused Leadville much more on drinking plenty. I did not use ice as much as far as I remember, and fueling, really focusing on simple carbs more than usual because I really struggle with fueling at altitude. I think most of the time I've puked was actually at Leadville. There's been exception, or at altitude. There's been exception, but I would say like 70-80% of the time is within these four race. And it's just I can't eat anything that is not super simple, and that like sometimes Coke is the best for me, ramen noodle. If I try to go with anything else, it just sit in my stomach, and then I'm sick. And I think one of the reasons for that is just being poorly adapted to altitude. The reality is that when you're at altitude, a lot of the blood flow is just focused on keeping up with your muscle because you don't have enough oxygen. So the blood flow in your gut is just reduced a little bit, and that means that what's in your stomach just is sitting there longer. Bacteria are having a fiesta, and then you have diarrhea, and that's just not great. Normally I would be okay, and probably if I would spend more time in Colorado, I would be probably more okay with that. But yeah, so not doing anything special. And I would say more broadly, fueling for a race, I aim for a 300 calories per hour. I don't like record it during the race, but I have a pretty good sense of that's a gel every a gel every 20 minutes. Depending on what I'm having at aid station, I could slow down a little bit if I had a bunch of food and then I'm running, and then I'm calculating whatever are in my bottle. And if you see my movies, I usually track it, and it actually most of the time it's pretty close to 300. And then you see me dip usually, and there's a dip, and then that's where afterwards I start struggling maybe 2, 3, 4 hours later. So there's direct correlation. I wish I had a better tip for that though, but I'm trying to hit the 300. What about you, Brian? What's your strategy?
I think the only thing I would add to that, Simon, is that these fueling strategies should all be worked out prior to race day in training on your long runs on the weekend. You should know what's working in your gut, what you like. Maybe you don't like mashed potatoes and broth, and maybe I like a granola bar, and so I have to put my own drop bags together with granola bars in it because I like granola bars. I like Snickers bars, just something different than what they normally have at the aid stations. And to that point, I think you need to know specifically what they're serving at the aid station. So I was just at the Silver Rush 50 this past weekend as a spectator. I wasn't racing, but I went up to the Never Second tent and asked them specifically what products of theirs, because they're one of the sponsors, the nutrition sponsors of the event. I asked them specifically what they're going to have at the aid stations for the 100, and he gave me, the exact flavors and gels and caffeinated gels that they're going to have at the aid station. So I went to the store and bought a few of them so I could use them this weekend and next weekend in training to make sure that my stomach's okay with it. And if not, then I need to have a backup plan.
Yeah. Good that you mentioned mashed potatoes, instant mashed potatoes. Potatoes are the stuff of like legend for me. Any form will actually usually work. So mashed potatoes, fries, hash brown, anytime an aid station has that, I'm so excited because I know I can have it and it's going to be pretty smooth for me. We had On Point Chiropractic, Sports Medicine, and Integrated Wellness. I'm not sure what it referred to, but it said, would you say that's from not enough fueling early on? I would say yes. Regardless of what that referred to, is probably yes. I would say that actually the interesting thing is that except for maybe like the first 12 miles, like when we're running towards Turkles Lake, like that's the first segment, first 12 miles, everyone is so excited and going balls to the wall really fast and maybe not drinking or eating enough because you're just so excited. But after that, like, it's important, so you're doing it. For me, the risk period of not fueling enough, and if we talk specifically with Leadville, it would be from half pipe, which is, I would say, mile 30-ish, to Twin Lake. Like, that's where, like, I'm a little bit, like, kind of past being in the zone. I start struggling a little bit, and that I I feel that I'm in a space where I don't do the basics as well. I might run too fast because like it's downhill and I can do it. I might forget to eat, forget to drink, and that's also it's coinciding with that's when it's getting really hot. You're in the sun. Well, I mean you're in the trail, but like from outward bound, like you cross the field, it's getting pretty hot. You're not drinking enough, you're not taking salt, you're not fueling, and then all of the problems afterwards are very often related to kind of this early race. What the hell was I thinking? Well, not even what the hell was I thinking, is what the hell or why the hell were I not thinking? Wow, that was more painful to say than I expected. Um, we had a question from Ron Long after, and I'm gonna paste it soon, but and you can start with this one, Brian. So of the big Colorado 100 mile, which should be attempted first, with the objective being you will finish them all and want to train with the objective that DNF won't happen if we do the training?
Well, I guess I mean it's probably a pretty extensive list. I mean, gosh, Ultra Sign-up's huge right now. I have no idea what the Colorado's full list of 100s looks like, but I'm thinking of um, right now. I'm actually halfway to Uray on my way to Uray 100 to help a athlete there. So I am somewhere in Grand Junction. And here's a travel tip. Side note here is that when you're on the side of the highway and you're looking for someplace quiet, just go to your local cemetery and you'll find a quiet space. So there's Uray, there's Hard Rock, it's hard to get into. There's Leadville's on the list. It's also challenging to get into. Gosh, there's Run Rabbit Run. It's a little bit easier, not a lottery. Um,
Totally.
there is the one this week in High Lonesome 100. Gosh, what other Rocky Mountain hundreds are there in Colorado?
Well, there's quite a lot, and I think the question is
Yeah.
really like it's of the big ones, so not necessarily listing like everything, but I think you hit the nail on the head with Run Rabbit Run. I think of all the 100 mile that I know of in Colorado and that are famous, like that's one that is very approachable. It's still a difficult one, but I feel that the altitude is not quite as high. It's not quite as technical, and the 36 hours is reasonable for that course. It's still gonna be difficult, but it's not like Uray. And then you have like the more Uray and Hard Rock. I mean, Hard Rock, that's not gonna be your first, so that's good news, I guess. But the Hard Rock and Uray are much more power hiking, mountaineering is a little pushing it a little bit, but it's it's about being able to go uphill a lot and know your way in the mountain. And then you separate that to something like a Leadville, and a Leadville for me is one that is a little bit in between. It's not technical, and I think we have the question later. It's not technical. There's almost nothing of Leadville that I would not be able to do with my mountain bike, which like that says a lot, okay? Because I'm not a good mountain biker. But you are at altitude and you need to be able to keep pushing. And that's the difference with Run Rabbit Run. You have more time at Run Rabbit Run, you're lower altitude. So I think that's a good one to start. And then you make your way from there. As to like the second part, which is like the objective of not DNFing if you train for it, I mean, technically, if you train for it, you're in a good position for any of them. But there are races like, quite frankly, like a Uray 100. If it's a bad year and you have really, really, really bad weather, it's out of your control. But I think that the Leadville, I don't know if there's a year that Leadville was so bad that everyone was DNFing because of the weather, but it doesn't feel like that kind of race for me. Like you're not up in the mountain like on the summit of a 14er. You're doing Hope Pass, but beyond that you're running on a gravel road mostly. It's okay. Like you're gonna be fine. In that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think Run Rabbit Run is a little more technical than Leadville as
Yeah.
far as the trail goes, and it has a little more climbing. But the cutoff is so much more generous. Trails are still beautiful. It's the high country of Colorado. It's just not as high as Leadville.
Yeah.
And I think Leadville's challenge, just like you alluded to, is that it's not a difficult course. And I think because it's not a difficult course, they had a crunch down the time in order to really get people in there. So these aggressive cutoffs are really one of the cruxes of the whole
Yeah.
event.
It's I made my list of the top 10 toughest ultra, and like, of course, like, you want the list to be controversial, so you put some that people will argue, so I put Leadville. But I will defend it and say that, like, when you factor in the cutoff, Leadville is so annoying. If Leadville was 32 hours, 33 hours, and you only have the global cutoff to think about, easy, so easy. Are you kidding me? Why do you call that a mountain race? But it's 30 hours and you got to make it to Twin Lake. And I don't have the cutoff in front of me, but like inbound and outbound, pretty aggressive. If you make it outbound, then you just have to grind it. But you can't decide to pace evenly the whole race, which also plays against, I think, older folks a little bit. Like, when you're older, you tend to be a little bit more mature about, like, I'm just gonna like go at a certain pace and like continue all that way. You can't do that. You need to be running some of that, which makes it a little bit difficult. The good news with Leadville, though, is I think that it's pretty clear when you're supposed to run and when you're supposed to power hike. If you're going up Hope Pass, you're supposed to power hike. Like, that's pretty obvious. Like, it's not like the gentle uphill that you're like, I could run that, but I'll get tired. No, it's uphill. Especially when you climb Hope Pass the first time, and it's decently steep for a fair amount of time. Then you come down, and then you're in Winfield, and you feel really bad, and then you go back up. And then the way back, it's like, oh man, like, this, can't remember that it was so steep, but it is really steep. Then on the flip side, you're going down, then it's going to be fine. And most of it is not technical. And actually, the next question from Jeff Graham is, how technical are the trails at Leadville? Not technical. There's like maybe a mile or two between May Queen and Outward Bound. Like, as soon as you leave May Queen, you're on single track. When you're going up on the way out, like when you're starting, you won't really notice because you're going up, so like it's not technical when you go up. Then it's gonna be a little technical. You gotta watch out when you leave Outward Bound. You're in the cow field, and then there's these holes sometimes, and you can really twist your ankle. It's not technical, but like, you have to watch out. And then up to Hope Pass, nothing is really truly technical. Even Hope Pass itself, I would say the most technical is on the down towards Winfield. That's where you have to watch out. And the beginning is actually pretty chill, but then it gets worse and worse and worse. Did I miss one, Brian? You know the course way better than I do.
No, I'd say that those are the two hot spots. There's that tiny little section, and that's not technical, but they call it mini power line, just at the edge of the dam.
Yeah.
It's maybe a quarter mile, and that's maybe 6 miles into the race, and 6 miles before the finish. Then there's the Colorado Trail section that you're talking about at the end of May Queen. I want to say it's mile 14 to 15 and a half, right in there on the outbound side. And that's just a section of the Colorado Trail before you get dumped off in the Hagerman Pass Road. And then you jump off of that single track into the 2-track, and it's again really nice, improved dirt roads. And then both from Twin Lakes all the way to Winfield and back is single track-ish, but it's wide. Every year it seems to get a lot of traffic. I was just there this weekend, and we saw tons of people training, racing, running, training, and having a good time on the Colorado Trail. It's also part of the Colorado Trail now. Yeah. And it's on the west loop of the collegiate loop of the Colorado Trail. So they're going over Hope Pass and back to Winfield. That's single track, but it's really runnable and manageable. I think some of the downhill stuff seems technical, but it's really just the issue that it's steep, and I don't think it's not technical, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's always relative, right? Like, if you're normal is running on the sidewalk, yeah, I mean, there's some stuff. If your normal is you live on the East Coast, you won't even realize which segment we meant by technical. Like, it's you'll be fine, but you won't be able to go full blast. And actually, the next question I think is very relevant. Maybe that was related to the comments. So we have Brian Knight, who's asking, so just finished Silver Rush 50. So congratulations. First of all, that beginning, right, to get the golden coin is just crazy. So a lot of people that ran it said that Leadville 100 is a much more runnable race. Would I agree? So that's a comment that I hear a lot for the mountain biking. And for the mountain biking, I'm like, oh yeah, absolutely. Like, are you serious right now? Like, remove all of the segment that I enjoyed at Leadville 100 for the mountain biking. That's Silver Rush. For the run, that's fairly true, I would say. But yeah, I mean, it's true. There's segments in there that are like, well, you don't have any equivalent on Silver Rush that's so runnable. Like after you're done with Power Line and you're running almost all the way to Half Pipe, like there's nothing quite like that at Silver Rush, which is just like you're on dirt road, you're just making speed. I think the difference or the distinction here is that it's great that there are runnable segment. The problem is that the expectation is that you're running the runnable segment. And that's what makes it difficult for me. Whereas Silver Rush, the expectation is like it's not super runnable sometimes. So you'll be slower. But when you're on the road, especially on the way towards Winfield, well, like the first half, like you're on the like pavement, like you're running that. Like you're not walking. That's not the time to walk. You're running that because you can't be too late for these cutoff.
Yeah, I think that's a good assessment. I hear that often as well. So when we think of just pure numbers alone, I think the 50 has like 8,200 feet of gain in it, and Leadville 100 has like 40 or 14.5 or so, 14.2 right in there, 14,200 feet of gain. So if we divide them in half or double the 50, whichever way you want to look at it, it doesn't add up to apples to apples. So I think there's more climbing and less runnable stuff in the 50 than you're going to see at the 100. And it's also stacked differently, I think, to Simon's point. There's big swaths of area that you can potentially run. And then when you get to the climbs, they're basically in your face enough that you're going to turn over to those hiking, climbing legs and just start powering up them. So
Yeah.
So I think
And
that's
it's
the differential.
I think, when you're not used to ultra running, you think, oh, like runnable. It's hard to describe, but the fact that it's a non-runnable segment doesn't make it easier or harder. Like there's pace expectation, and when you're going uphill, it's not the time to slow down compared to the average pace. Like you're power hiking. I know it. Like I laugh when I say to myself, but you're power hiking. You're not just walking up. Like you're not on the stroll. Like you're power hiking. You're going there, and you can make up so much time. Like you can easily save an hour on Hope Pass just by being efficient at power hiking as opposed to just kind of hiking, and it will make a huge difference. So don't get lured by the fact that there are runnable segments. Take advantage of it, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Next question we had was, how would I compare my physical mental performance for race with a crew and without a crew? And I'm sure, Brian, you can answer that too, because we've both raced with and without crew. Interesting. I mean, physical, it's the same. Like I come in with a certain level of fitness. I think mentally for me, if I'm smart about where I put my pacers. So crew for me, it's convenient. Like I will have my stuff, but it's not necessarily affecting so much my mental resilience. Like I'm happy to see people, but that won't affect me so much. When I know that like Nora will be pacing from Twin Lake to Outward Bound, then that is affecting my kind of mental performance. And I'm able to say like, okay, like you got to push up to that point so you can see her, and it can be my wife, it can be someone else. It's stupid, but I would feel so bad asking someone to pace me and not making it, or quit, like arriving there and saying like I'm done. Like I understand it happens, and if someone ever does that to me, I will not be upset, right? But for myself, I don't want to ask someone like, hey, would you like come and pace me, and then I arrive like, fuck it, like I'm not doing it. Like I would feel really bad. So that's affecting my performance. And in fact, at Leadville, there's a time, and I'm sure I said it in the movie, or maybe I did, and maybe I never told Nora, but Nora was pacing me, I think, from Outward Bound to the finish. And because of that, I really didn't want it to not have a lot of time. Like I didn't want her to be stressed about time. So when I was running with Mark and Leon, like I was pushing a little more. I was like, I gotta run faster so that Nora is not nervous about it. She's not like looking at the time all the time. So that has helped me. And as much as like I hate when people say like it's 90% mental, it's like, well, yeah, it's 90% mental and the other 90% is physical. Like I don't think like mental is so much more important than physical. Like it's very like it's not like that, but the mental part is important nonetheless. And these little trick has helped me to push a little bit more, or to make it a little bit more fun. When I think about Cocodona, and I know it's not Leadville, but this year, Cocodona, Nora was pacing me kind of in the middle, and that has helped me for the first half, thinking like I gotta make it to Nora with enough time, and then that was so much fun. And then the last part, I was not with her, and I was just thinking like I just gotta finish now, like it's. But at least it was a smaller segment. How about you, Brian? How do you deal with or how does it
Yeah,
help you?
yeah, I think there's power in numbers and community and having other people sharing it. I've brought pacers most years to Leadville, and crew, and those guys actually, Mark and Leanne and others that have paced me have gone on to run their own Leadville 100s. So it's kind of like bringing in, introducing people to the community, which I think is really great. Um, but it's not needed either. And it just depends. I am like an extrovert. I love to talk, and you can't tell. And I don't mind the company, so I don't mind being on the trail with people. If I and I have done events solo. I did most of Cocodona solo. I've done Leadville completely solo, in preparation for other events that I knew were going to be a little bit longer. So I ran Leadville solo with the intention of just trying to see if I enjoyed it or not. So that's like another idea. So maybe smaller events, maybe doing that 100K with no pacers and just kind of seeing if that's your cup of tea, if you really liked it or if you didn't. There's logistics of drop bags and being more prepared if you don't have a crew, but those are things that you could just work out on your own, pre-race. But mentally, I think it's there are boosts to it, but also I enjoyed the time I spend on the trail by myself. I train a lot by myself, so I'm already in that space where I'm really comfortable running in the woods by myself for hours. And I live in Western Colorado. I'm fortunate there; it's not really high volume of people out on the trails running at the same times that I am. So it's rare for me to see anybody. So it's usually me, my dog, running through the woods, and that's about it for hours on end. And so I'm pretty comfortable doing that, but I think it's worth exploring prior to the event to see if that's something that you either would prefer to have a crew or not have a crew, and either could work for whatever your purpose is.
Yeah, we have Jeff actually, Pacer Travel. He's not trolling us, but he's asking specifically to you, polls or no polls.
Mm, it's a great question. So thanks for the question, Jeff. I appreciate it. My knees are good.
That's good to know. Oh, Brian. Brian's gone. Let me figure that out. Sorry, guys. Technical difficulty. Let me text Brian.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Ah, yes. There you go.
My camera's a little warm. I might have to change over to the computer. But to answer Jeff's question, I'm going to bring two sets of poles. I'm going to have one at Winfield at the drop, and I'm going to have one.
Cliffhanger, guys. We will never know. So, for the full backstory here, the reason Jeff is trolling about that is that Brian used to be anti-polls, guys. But jokes aside, if you want to race Leadville, and I'm saying that while he's not there, I do think that polls are super helpful, especially on the Hope Pass. So myself, what I do is I don't use pole up until, usually not until Twin Lakes, which is where I will pick up my poles, up Hope Pass, down to Winfield, then back, and then depending how I feel, I will either drop them at Twin Lakes or I will keep them. If I'm feeling good, I'm actually gonna leave them because I can run. There's not major climb. If I'm feeling pretty tired, then I'm just gonna go and like use them like grandpa, and which is also the relation to how our Brian's knees. Because I didn't ask how Brian's knees are doing, which was our running joke before. Because as runners, we have all sorts of problem, but right now knees are the only thing that are holding up. You're back. Oh, actually, sound is not working, Brian. But it sounds like you can hear us, though. You can sing whenever you feel that you've changed something about it.
All right, I think
It
how's that?
is. Yes, it's working.
Sorry, my bad. So my camera overheated because I'm standing in the sun, blasting here in Western Colorado. But I'm gonna have two sets of poles, Jeff. I am gonna either use one just for Hope Pass home, or if I'm not feeling well at mile 40, or if I feel like I'm struggling just a slight bit, I'm gonna use them on my way outbound as well. So that's to answer your question. Sorry for the delay.
Yeah.
I'm back.
That's Brian has matured, guys. That's my takeaway from all of that. Because I think
I normally
did you
I
use
think I heard the
poles
story,
at
but normally
URA?
I did, but really late. I think mile 40 or so.
Exactly. Exactly.
Like
He's
pretty
learning,
pretty late,
guys.
which is late for URA. You got 40% of the climbing done at that
Yes.
point.
Brian is slowly but surely learning. Like that I'm feeling so great right now, Brian. And I'm
I don't
glad to
know
hear
though.
your
We'll
knees are
see.
good.
We'll see. If I'm feeling really good, I won't use any poles, Jeff.
Yeah.
So just so
Well,
you know.
but honestly, and that's what I was saying when you were gone. Like for Leadville, I feel like Hope Pass is the place where you will want to use them. But if I'm feeling strong after coming back to Twin Lakes, I'm dropping my poles and I can run or power hike without poles, and that will be advantageous. Like the poles will slow me down otherwise. If I'm feeling weak, then I'm using them. So then it depends on that. Then most likely, actually, the year I did a sub 25, I probably dropped my poles because I was feeling strong.
And to follow up, I usually do use poles late in the race at Leadville on Powerline inbound. Now,
Mm.
Sugarloaf on the way outbound is much more runnable and manageable. Maybe runnable is a loose term, but you can power hike and run on sections to get up Sugarloaf and go down Powerline. But Powerline on the way home, I will use the poles for sure.
Yeah, and for those not familiar with the course, actually, like that originally I was gonna go through segments, but I hope that you guys have read about the course a little bit. But one of the things that, for me at least, I was really surprised is everyone talks about Powerline, how hardcore it is. And quite frankly, Powerline on the way back towards the finish line is not so bad. It's steep though, but it is short lived. And I think it's infamous because it's one of the last, or no, it is the last major climb of the race. So if you're struggling, that's a kick in the butt. But if you're feeling strong, it feels like you're done in like 20, 30 minutes, the real climb of it. Then it's rolling hills and then you're out of it. So depending how you're feeling, like don't get too intimidated by it. Quite frankly, like if you've done Hope Pass, you can easily do Powerline. But you're going to feel it. You're gonna know that is Powerline because it is steep. On the That's actually a segment that on the mountain bike I don't want to do again because that was painful. Yes. I have been barred from doing mountain biking because of that crash. I'm actually not complaining. I'm very happy to not be allowed to do it anymore.
But just to be more specific, you've been barred from your wife Nora from mountain biking.
Yes, exactly. But
Not from
if she's
not from
watching
any
and
mountain
she's
bike
like,
association or anything.
no, no, I don't know what anyone would ban me from any sports event. I'm very much a mid-packer. No, she said it was too stressful because because I come at the aid station and I'm bleeding from everywhere and I have a broken rib. Yeah, and quite frankly, that's one of those ones like, yeah, I think you're right. I think I'm retired from mountain biking. I have actually not ridden my mountain bike ever since that crash. Well, I mean, then I finished the race and then I basically, like, that's what I did with my mountain bike. I washed off the blood because I was bleeding on it, and then it's been on my garage and I haven't used it since. So maybe someday I'll do Leadman again, but maybe not. How important is it to have specific support or crew with you? I mean, I think we kind of answered it a little bit. It's one of those that is nice to have personally, and that's true not just for Leadville, but I think a pacer is way more important than a crew. Not that the crew is not nice, but especially for a race like Leadville, you have enough aid station and enough drop bag that you can get what you need where you need it. Like, it's not a race like Cocodona. It was very practical if you have a crew, because they can give you the gear, and then it's daytime, you give away all of like your night gear, and then they will give it back later. So if you can have one, that's great. If you can't have it, you'll be fine. And the last piece I would say, and we'll move to the next question, Brian, like we won't bore people with like answering twice the same thing, but if you don't have a pacer, when you come back to Twin Lake on the way back, you could potentially pick up someone. There's a lot of pacers that will be at Twin Lakes with the intent of pacing someone, or they come in, they just want to help out. They have no one in mind, or they were planning to help a runner, but that runner has dropped. So you might be able to pick up someone. That's how actually, I mean, indirectly, we kind of met Brian. We met before that. Brian presented us Thomas, who was my pacer the first year I did Leadville, and that was not the plan. The plan was just maybe Nora would pace me, but then Thomas helped. And you see that a lot. I mean, myself, I will be there this year. Most likely I'm not pacing because I'll be like a few days out of Bigfoot. But if I'm feeling good and I see someone that is struggling, I might say like, hey, you know, want me to run a little bit with you? So don't feel bad if you don't have buddy for that, or you're not married to someone who's gonna pace you. Any that one might be good for you, Brian. Any thought on caffeine strategy to help with night running?
Yeah, this is a good question, and I see it a lot in coaching. I think the strategy. So going into the race, it may be, well, I guess we're 4 weeks out today or tomorrow. Tomorrow morning we're 4 weeks out, actually, Saturday morning. So I would say if you're gonna bring your caffeine levels down, now would be the time, in preparation for the race day, for race day itself, right? And so what you're trying to do is you're going to try to settle those in the next 2 weeks, because you're going to have some mood swings, maybe some disturbed sleep from less caffeine, and you're going to try to settle those out so that you can settle those out. And then race day, when you have caffeine, it'll kick in a little bit harder. But don't do it the week of the race. I see a lot of people do that, and that's counterintuitive. What happens is you do lose the sleep, you do become irritable and cranky and all those things, and it's just too late. It's too little, too late. So if you're not going to plan on changing your caffeine routine, just keep it consistent throughout. In even race day morning, I know it's a 4 a.m. start, it's pretty early, but I will have a cup of coffee at 2:15 in the morning prior to race day, or the start of the race itself, just to make sure that I'm getting the same amount of caffeine. And then I'm waiting until I need it, or the darker hours. Usually, I know for me, that's usually that pre-dawn hours, like 3, 4, 5 a.m. Usually, sometimes it's midnight, and sometimes it hits me at 8 o'clock at night. It just depends. But I'm not using it consistently until I need it. And then I'm also trying to, like, as soon as I start feeling sleepy, I'm taking it, whether it's in a gel or a Red Bull drink or an energy drink or something along those lines, or your Coca-Cola from the aid station, which I'm not sure if there's enough caffeine in that to warrant calling it a boost by any means. But I think the sugar helps more than the caffeine in Coca-Cola, personally. But I'd say that as soon as it onsets, you have this window there, but then you're going to start taking your caffeine gel or your caffeine pill or your drink or whatever it is, because you want it to kick in the next 20, 30 minutes so that you can kind of offset that a little bit to get over the hump. And for me, I will finish in daylight on Sunday morning after the Saturday start. So as the sun comes up, which is past 25 hours, but before the 30 hours. And as soon as the sun comes up, I feel better about the day, usually in the morning hours, and I could continue on and finish strong, and then and call that good.
Yeah, yeah.
I hope I answered the question. Yeah.
I'm well. I hope so too. But I totally agree with everything, and I would say also, for me, doing 200s, what has become more and more apparent is that it's caffeine is the obvious one that on a day to, like, it's stimulating, but it's not energy. And sometimes when you're sleepy, it's because sleepiness, like lack of, like, you need a stimulant. But sometimes it's lack of energy. And if you're fueling a lot with fast carbs, and like we're talking sugar, like gels and Coke and Tailwind and these things, like, this is great, fast absorb. You have a spike of, sorry, it's reverse. You have a like this. Okay, you have a spike of sugar and then it goes down, and then that's where you crash. And that's for me, having also other source of fueling is important. So complex carb will be very important. Things that are not carbs will be important to have a little bit more of a sustained glycemia, as opposed to like peak and trout all the time and then like I'm super awake and then super tired. Caffeine will help, and it feels more like crouches. That will help me walk a little bit. But as soon as I start being really sleepy, what I typically do is, well, sometimes I will take short naps and that helps. But that's also a sign that like this probably not just that. Like if I feel like I sleep 5 minutes and then I'm good, it was probably glycemia. But I try also to match it with taking intake of some fuel of some sort. And then I just take salt for good measure in case it's related to that, and that has helped me on these longer run where, of course, you're gonna be tired and sleepy, but it just doesn't quite feel the same, but it feels the same a little bit. We had a question that was not political, but why can't media with passes go to Hope Pass and Twin Lakes? I don't know the rules for this year, but what I can say, okay, and I am, I guess, technically an influencer, but I don't like hearing that there's different breeds of influencers. Um, it was a shit show last year. I really did not enjoy it. It was reaching a point where it was unpleasant that you have influencer, like real influencer that you've never seen running before, you've never seen in your life, and they will never help anyone, but they have a crew of 5, 6, 7 people with cameras and drones, and they're in your face, they bump into you, they don't give a crap about normal runner. And that's I think it's good and positive to capture the event, to capture your experience, but when you're reducing the experience of other runner, you have to be careful. And there was definitely some of that. I mean, there's literally some people that on social media straight up said that they were cheating. They didn't say I was cheating. They said like I stashed shoes on the course, or like, oh, the crew is not supposed to be there, but they're there anyway and they're supporting. Like that kind of I don't give a crap about rules will definitely make Lifetime and Leadville clamp down on these things and say like, hey, like, you know what, like nobody's gonna be on Hope Pass anymore. So I don't know if this is new for Hope Pass, but semi-related to that, it's even before the circus of big time influencer coming in and like just making it their own. Brian is old enough to remember. I talk like you're old, but sorry, we're friends. That's why I kind of like throw jab like that. He's been around long enough to remember back when we could have Pacers. It's not so long ago, but Pacers from Winfield all the way to Leadville. Whereas now you cannot have Pacers from Winfield to Twin Lake. It's only at Twin Lake at mile 60. And I think this is much more related to the amount of people that are going to Winfield. Like it's a tiny dirt road. There's not a lot of space, and then as it gets bigger as an event, it just became impossible to have everyone. And if everyone can just apply for a media pass to have their buddies be at Hope Pass with a drone, at some point it just becomes impossible. So they might have decided to clamp down a little bit.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited that they are not allowing people, I don't know, people where they don't belong, right? We don't want them on Hope Pass. We already have enough one-way traffic and two-way traffic, runners coming at us as we're going up. We don't need a guy with a camera stumbling around with a huge backpack. It's a little bit of a challenge already on Hope Pass, just passing people left and right, never mind adding in somebody's camera crew to follow them around. And Winfield is 3 cabins in the middle of the woods. I mean, it's not an actual town. I mean, there's nothing there besides these 3 summer cabins, and the creek runs through it, and a dirt parking lot that we're able to use. So there's not much amenities there. It's not like, and it's a really long drive to get into there, and it's like all like, I don't know what you call it, tank track road, like really bumpy and just hard to get in and out of. So as much as I do remember the old days, Simon, but as much as I do remember the old days, I actually appreciate what they're attempting to do. Whether or not they're successful at it or not is a different story, but I do appreciate what they're trying to do is minimize the impact to the participant, to the crews, and to the communities that they're impacting.
Yeah, I mean, it's to the point where you even have to wonder how much they're receiving pressure from local community to say like, get your crap together or you're not getting the permit anymore. Because if you like, if you're deep into these like community posts, like, yeah, there are people in Leadville that are not excited about Leadville anymore because it is kind of a shit show nowadays, and they don't need it as much as like a few years ago. Like, Leadville is on the map now. Why do we have that? Why is it so disrupting? So I think the unfortunate truth is that when you have a lot of people, especially when it's attracting a certain type of people, most people are well behaved. Most people are considerate. But even considerate people, when you have 1,000 people, that's a lot of people. And considerate people, it's one thing, but 1,000 considerate people is still affecting. But on top of that, you have people that are a little bit inconsiderate. Yeah, that's where it's getting a little bit difficult, and unfortunately, that's where you need to regulate a little bit more. It's unfortunate, but I like Brian said, it's probably for the best. One comment I did want to address here, we have, oh, I can't pronounce, but it's Chiponik. I'm sorry, but the person is saying just acquired pay answering a knee bursitis on the left knee during an overnight 50-miler last week, preparing for Leadville. Feeling deflated after 8 months of training. I mean, I hear you so much. I don't know how bad your situation is, but it definitely comes back to one of the first things that we said, is that coming in healthy is pretty important. If you have an injury but you're well trained, the injury will definitely hurt. So hopefully you have enough time to kind of get it's resolved. And if you're feeling really nervous about the fitness that you're not gaining or the fitness that you're losing in that amount of time, from my own experience, even if from today you don't run a single day until the race, but that's what it takes to be 100% back injury wise, that's definitely what you have to do. And you shouldn't worry too much about the fitness level. Of course, it's not ideal. Like 2 weeks without running, you don't lose fitness. 4 weeks, you start losing it a little bit, but if the knee issues come back in the race, that's gonna be bad. I mean, you raced with an injury a little bit last year, right, Brian? Like your Achilles popped up,
I
right?
did, yeah. My Achilles flared up really angry at Hope Pass. That's why I sat at the top at Hopeless Aid Station. I actually, to go back to that, I think it was like an hour and 10 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. I remember looking at Strava and I could see my stop time at Hopeless Aid Station. I was debating if I was going forward or backwards, as a matter of fact. So I was just kind of sitting there at Hopeless, and I thought, if I'm sitting here, I might as well do something productive, sort of productive, if I can't move forward, or if I'm not willing to move forward just yet. So I kept eating and drinking. I think that did inevitably help me. I decided to move forward, but I think that also helped me later on in the race have all the glycogen stores I needed, because I topped everything off in an hour and 10 minutes at Hopeless Aid Station. I ate a lot of their food. To answer the question about the knee bursitis, I think it's really individual, unfortunately. I'm sorry that you have that going on at this close to the race. I think you need to figure out with your primary care physician what the options are, what you're willing to do with those options, and what works best for you in your situation. I don't know if this is your A race and you're going to race Leadville one time and never do it again. So maybe that might mean deferring to next year. I think you could repay the fee, unfortunately, but you can defer and skip the lottery. I still think that's an option. I don't know, though. You'd have to check the site to really know that. But if it's just another one on the list, you could also try it and see how it goes. You could rest it, like Simon said, and see how it goes. But I think that's an individualized sort of response to some of the options that you have.
Yeah, but we do feel really bad for you. Regardless of the outcome, like, injuries are definitely part of running,
Yeah.
unfortunately, and it's always difficult to know specifically what you have to do. I don't know if you were able to consult someone. I saw someone in the comments saying like trying some Aleve or basically NSAID. I mean, definitely, ice and these sorts of things, but sometimes it's worth checking with a PT or a doctor to see that it's like your diagnostic is accurate. I read quickly the comments, so I don't know if you've done that already, but the mindset of it will get better by itself usually works out fine. But when you're in a time crunch like that, sometimes like going out there and like seeking these things earlier rather than later can make the difference. Like, if your recovery is 1 week faster on a normal training cycle, in the middle of the cycle, who cares? But when you have like 4 weeks, like, that can make an important distinction. So regardless, sending you a lot of love and courage and all of these things. Hopefully it will be okay. But I know that another of your comment was like how much fitness am I losing of my 8 months. Like it's minor. Like I think the biggest impact it has is that it's taking away almost a full, for me, like I organize my training block in 3 weeks, 1 week, so it's almost taking a full training block out of that. That's the biggest impact, that you don't get that improvement. But if you were here, I think after 4 weeks, like, oh, maybe like a little lower, like you won't have the cutting edge maybe if you're doing a lot of speed work, but it's not my biggest concern. My biggest concern is actually your knee right now. And if your knee is okay, if you were fit enough to do it before that 50 miler and you get your knee in a good position, I think you can still do it. That's what I'm saying. So yeah. Sorry, just catching up. Too much reading. Oh my god. Oh yeah, what's your pacing duty at the URA today or tomorrow, whenever? And how's your guy or girl doing?
So I am helping out Tim Vale. We just had him on the podcast. That episode was released. I don't know what's today, Friday. So it was released on Wednesday morning on Buckle Up, an ultra running conversation. It's on YouTube. It's on all your podcast platforms as well. So that's our most recent episode. He just finished Western States in sub 21 hours, 20 hours, 55 minutes. So he's a super young guy, up and coming. And he showed up here with his mom in URA yesterday or last night, Thursday night, to start at 8 a.m. this morning. So I live within a close proximity to URA. I live about 2.5 hours from URA. So I was able to almost get there before I had to do this meeting. But I am going to try to help him out. He's moving really well. He's in 12th overall, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, or he was. The last time I checked, I could check again. But before we started recording, he was like at 12th or 13th. He was in his first loop, if you're familiar with the course at URA. He's in his first loop of Ironton. So he went up the 2-track and he's coming down that fun single track. Yeah, it was fun-ish. Plus the sun was up and on. And then you turn around and go do the loop he's doing it in the counterclockwise direction now, and he'll do it in the clockwise direction next. So he's right in the mix of things. I think it's mile 35, roughly. I'm taking a pretty rough guess there. But you could go to the website and track. Oh, he's at 37.67. So, and he's in 12th overall, Tim Vale.
That's awesome. And so what will you be pacing, sorry?
Yeah, so we didn't. He had a section that he thought he wanted me to pace, but I actually told him, like, I'll just show up and find his mom, and we're gonna crew together. Yeah. And whenever he needs me to jump in, I'll just be ready to help out, because I don't want to pace a section like it's at 8 a.m. in the morning and he's feeling great. I just don't want to be out there to be out there. Not that I don't want to be out there. I mean, I'm gonna get some miles in, but maybe later in the race at the Twin Peaks or the other one, the Crystal Lake out and back. I mean, those are some bigger chunks of trail, and maybe when he needs it more, maybe Chief Uray mine later, late in the race, like mile 80, 90 in there. And then the final one is the Bridge to Heaven. It was a brutal climb as well. So any of those that he might need it later on, maybe nightfall tomorrow night, but we'll see. He's moving really well. He's at 37 right now. I'd imagine that he's going to get to 50 before 24 hours. So I'm just on like standby, but I have all my gear. I have actually packed it all and everything. So if I show up and he needs me, I'm just going to throw the pack on and start going with him.
Yeah, I hope you have your poles. Actually, you just saying these segments, I was like, oh man, like all of these segments sound so cool, like Crystal Lake. I mean, to be fair, the downhill on the way back from Crystal Lake was just so steep and annoying. I was like, oh my God, can it ever help? Like finish, like anyway. Let's move back to Leadville though. So we had someone asking for the sub 25, like what's the biggest difference? Like my summary honestly is like consistency through the race. Like if you're on pace for a 30 hours at Twin Lake inbound, you're probably still kind of on pace for a sub 25 if you're able to keep pushing, but that's where people start slowing down. So I mean, there's probably a difference by 1 hour, a little bit, something like that, but nothing crazy, whereas a lot of people will slow down. But it's related to the question that we have now on screen. So where do the majority of runners drop and why? Do you go slow to start and build speed as you go? What is the most challenging section in your opinion? where is the most critical to have crew meet you? I think you should take that. You have a lot of experience on the course, so
I don't think that there is one crux spot where runners just like say I'm done and they hand in their bib and they're out of there. I think that we see runners at the cutoffs get cut or miss the cutoff for that Twin Lakes in outbound or Winfield turnaround or Twin Lakes inbound or even outward bound inbound, right? I mean, rarely do we see the occasion, maybe it's the anomaly, like at mile 26 going outbound, the outbound person getting cut, and maybe they showed up with an injury or something like that, and they were just trying to attempt it, but it just wasn't going to happen that day. Normally, we just see the attrition of the race itself at the cutoffs being the most aggressive part of the whole aspect. So I don't think there's one particular spot that I think of that is more of a danger zone where people are just pulling off their bibs and saying, I'm out of here type of thing.
yeah. I think the cutoff that are notorious for being a little tighter would be the Twin Lakes, especially the one inbound. So at mile 60, a lot of people will get cut there. But I don't know if it's this year or the one before, but they've added 15-minute, and I don't know how much it will help. But I think it's definitely a move in the right direction where I feel that some people that have been cut off at earlier cutoff in the race, maybe they would have been able to keep pushing to a sub 30 hours. And myself, for most races, because I do so many, I don't study every cutoff and think like, okay, like I have to be at mile 43 by like that amount of time. Like I know that this race, like Leadville, is 30 hours. Okay, like where am I at like 20 hours? Like am I on track for 30 hours? And then yes, but sometimes, and Leadville is one of them, that I feel that the 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 pace that you have to go is a little faster at the start, so you can't manage it too much like that. But maybe the 15-minute makes the difference. But I really divide. For me, it's you have a question, Brian?
I don't have a question at all.
No, I
What I was
know.
going to say is that the most aggressive cutoff in the whole race is mile 60 inbound at
Yeah,
Twin Lakes. It's 10:15 p.m. now. It used to be 10 p.m. And I've made it there with like 15 minutes to spare. Luckily, at the 10 when it was back at 10 p.m. So 9:45, I rolled in. I mean, literally, I just changed water bottles and refilled my pockets with more food, and kept on moving. I think at that point I already had a pacer
yeah,
from Winfield, but it's the most aggressive cutoff. Normally, though, if you make that cutoff, you still got to keep on the gas. You're not walking through the mall, you're not sightseeing, but you're moving with purpose, and you can power hike all the way home.
yeah.
Typically, if you make that cutoff at 10:15 p.m., you could still make the 10 a.m. cutoff 11 hours and 45 minutes later at 10 a.m. at downtown Leadville.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's a great point because it depends on your experience. Like if Leadville is your first race, you might be used to cutoff like that. But I would say Leadville is very different. Like I don't think there's any cutoff that if you barely make it, then it's like, yeah, you're not gonna make it. There's other race that, like, quite frankly, if you barely made the cutoff at mile 30, I'm sorry, but like unless it's because you made a wrong turn, you did extra mile, like you're kind of screwed. Like we know that you're not gonna finish. But Leadville is one of those that, of course, like even if like Brian made it with only 15 minutes and he still finished, it doesn't mean that if you made that cutoff, you will necessarily finish. But it means that you have a realistic shot at finishing. And if you want to know like what's the pace you should go at, there's actually a spreadsheet somewhere online that Google will help you find, because if I try to describe how to find it, I never remember. But it's like if you go like Leadville cutoff, Leadville 100 mile run cutoff plus Excel sheet, you will probably find it, and it's actually pretty good. It will help you. It's not just giving you the cutoff, but if you want to do 25 hours, it will give you the option. You click 25 hours, and it's gonna say you have to be at outward bound, outbound by that amount of time, and I think it's based on prior, like all of the data from like whatever, like 1,000 runner that did it before that, and then did the average. But like it's pretty good. It's a good indication of where you're gonna land as long as you stay on the average, right? Like if you were following and then you break out, like you're totally, yeah, okay, you're gonna fall behind. But if you stick with the pace, that's gonna be a good indication. And the cutoff at mile 60 or whatever, 62 or 61, is the one that's like they recommend. If you want to do a 29:59:59, you have to be there like 5 minutes before cutoff. Whereas the other one, they give you a 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour buffer, because that's the amount of time that's what you need. But that one is just odd. But the 15-minute will help.
One of the follow-ups to that would be one of the follow-up questions was about like where would I strategically place crew in the event, and Leadville kind of dictates that for you, quite honestly. You're not allowed at May Queen outbound in the morning at mile 13. So you can have a drop bag, and there's an aid station. It's fully, I don't know, full service aid station, I guess you'd call it. So you have that at mile 13 at the lake's end. Then you run over to outward bound. That's where the first time you could actually see your crew. And that's mile 27, I want to say, roughly like right around 27. Yeah. Yep. I think it's 27. I'm pretty sure it might be 23, but either way, it's 20 is the bottom of the climb or the descent of power line. So it's probably 23, quite honestly. So you have that where you can see your crew. It's a huge dirt field, huge parking lot. They're going to have to carry your gear in, so make it easy and accessible for them to do that. Then they can hop on a shuttle at that same location at Outward Bound, and they're going to shuttle to Twin Lakes. And that's the next time they could see you. That's mile 40. So that's 23 and 40. That's another 15, 17 miles. There's probably 2 more stops in there. If they had enough time, they might be able to drive around to Pipeline, but that's pretty tough to do if they saw you at Outward Bound already, because you're only about 3 more miles down the road. In that time that you got there, they wouldn't be able to get in their vehicle and make it to Pipeline, more than likely, and make you at Twin Lakes, which is more critical, quite honestly.
Yeah.
So I'd suggest getting in the shuttle, going to Twin Lakes. They could set up camp, make some friends, squeeze in a tent somewhere. It's going to be a little crazy this year. It's a little different than past years, Simon. I don't know if you knew this, but they did a lottery for the tents at Twin Lakes. And so the first drawings already happened. I hope you got in. If you're in this year, I hope that you got in and you got your lottery spot, your lottery or your tent spot at Twin Lakes. If you didn't, the lottery opens up on the 20th for 10 more days. And on the 30th, they're going to draw a second round to backfill some of the spots that they have available. So if you got it in the first round, you're good to go. If you didn't get in and you applied, you're automatically entered to the second round. If you haven't applied, you need to get your name into that mix. Check out the site. Check out crewing at Twin Lakes on their site somewhere. If I find it, I'll try to put it in the comments down below in here. But then Twin Lakes is the next spot. They could see you at mile 40. Then they can't see you all the way to 60 when you come back to Twin Lakes. So it's basically a long afternoon of hanging out and into the evening. There is a small village there. There's a gas station with full service food. There's a couple of restaurants and pizza, burgers, like coffee trucks, that kind of scene going on. And it's exciting. It's pretty fun. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of people excited about the event. And then they see you at Twin Lakes inbound. Then they see you at Outward Bound again. They get on that shuttle, go back to where they left their vehicle. They see you at Outward Bound. Now on the inbound, they can see you at May Queen at mile 87, which was 13 in the morning, which they couldn't go to. But now in the evening hours, they're allowed to drive around the lake in the clockwise direction and give you some support at May Queen inbound before they see you at the finish.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You don't have many options, basically, is the summary nowadays. But I think with all race, like for me, the around nightfall and around sunrise is like the critical timing. So the way they force you is actually somewhat intelligent. Going towards Hope Pass, that's where you switch from your running fast gear to I'm gonna be doing a mountain pass. So you switch your gear, and having your crew there is helpful. Similarly, you're on the way back, Twin Lake. That's nightfall, and that's where you're like, okay, like now I don't need my mountain gear, but I need my night gear. And then at May Queen, that's where you potentially have morning coming up soon. Maybe you need some sunscreen. Maybe you drop some layers. So I feel they're doing it quite all right. We have a question from Joe Von Bokern. Love the channel. Great. Thank you. Really appreciate that. So the question is about the conga line at the start, or like, as soon as you hit Turkles Lake. The textual question is, should I worry about the conga line? I don't think you should worry, but yes, there will be a conga line, and it's really hard to avoid it. Like you have to go really, really fast to avoid all of it, because a lot of people are going really, really fast to avoid it. And there's always someone that I don't know. That's true for every race, but like especially Leadville, there's always someone that I don't know. Like they must be running 5-minute mile when it's not on trail, and it's crazy. Like they're super fast. Like how can they be so far ahead? Like I was actually sprinting the whole way, and it's only like 3 or 4 miles to hit the single track. And then they're going at 12-14 minute mile, and it's like I don't understand how this is happening. And when it's just someone ahead of you, it's easy to pass along. But when you're like 10-20 people deep in the conga line, that's where it's kind of impossible. And then if the 3 or 4 people at the start are not realizing that they're blocking everyone, then that's where you have a huge conga line going at 10-12 minute mile. And quite frankly, most likely it's gonna happen. I would say you can't really avoid it, and don't be too impatient about it. About like, yeah, if there's a single person you're passing, go around and pass. But not Twin Lake, sorry, Turquoise Lake is not super technical, but it's the kind of not super technical that you're gonna face plant. Like it's not technical. There's just a tiny rock here, one root there, and that's enough for your brain to focus on something else. And especially when you're like it's not quite sunny yet, like it's not daytime, like it's nighttime, and you're thinking about like, oh, can I pass this person? And then you sprint a little bit. That's where you face plant. And I've seen so many people fall and hurt themselves. Some people have DNF before May Queen because of that. Like every year, there's someone that's gonna DNF before May Queen. So frustrating. I don't have a clear solution unless you're Mickey and you're running with like, yeah, like Carl Metzer, like at the front. Like it's gonna happen. Do you have a tip? You're faster than me, right?
I'm not faster than you, but
well, you're ahead of me every time. Maybe you're the guy holding the conga line.
Yeah, I want to get out there, and then I'm just roadblocking this thing. I am just
yeah, with your arms spread.
With my trekking poles. That's when I'm using the trekking poles.
Yeah.
I'm all aside. I actually think that there. I don't think there's any avoiding it. Just like you said, I've been in the Congo line quite a few times. I think it's being patient, and we're all amped up. Everyone's race hyped is here. We just had the gunshot. We have the drones flying over us. I mean, we're just in this huge mob of people running down a paved road before it gets to a dirt road to a single track. So we're just filing down smaller and smaller, and they're whittling us into this trail, and we're kind of stuck here, right? So I think there's some grace and patience, right? Like, and just being like, hey, when you get a chance, can I get by you? Like, just using your words and saying something. If you're coming from behind me, I've passed people. Like it's a thing. It happens, right? Yeah. I don't want you to be held up and like running right up on me because I'm in the way. So I will step off when I get an available chance to step off or scoot over to give you some room to go by. And the same thing, I hope when I catch the person in front of me that I say, hey, any chance I could get by you? And they say, sure, here's a good spot. And then I go right by him, right? So I think it's just being mindful of that. Don't go crazy. I mean, we see people just dart through the woods and like, you know, you're like, where are you going? Like, it's just like the traffic on the 3-lane interstate. Like the guy darts down this fast lane and then all of a sudden he's a car in front of you. Like he's just in the same spot, basically. He's one guy in front of you. And I'd like, really, you did all that work just to get right there. So just be mindful of like what you expect of other people and as well as what you're hoping to portray to those people as well. Like just be mindful of both aspects.
I mean, and it's funny because you hit 2 points that like I never have a chance to talk about it so much, but like it's about trail etiquette. And the first one is like poles. You don't need poles at the start of Leadville, and you don't need poles around Turquoise Lake. Like maybe like some situational, but like 99% of the people don't need poles. I've been poked and tripped with poles several times at the start of Leadville. I don't know if it's because there's so many people, and like I said, even if everyone is considerate, 1,000 people is 1,000 people, but it could be also that some people are newer to trail running and might not know what is typical trail etiquette. And so your poles, you don't need them. Put them on your bag. Like just don't like hold them and swing them around because you're not using them. Like you're blocking people from passing you safely, which is frustrating. And when you're in the start corral, you're literally hitting people. That's also not great. Similarly, it's common trail etiquette or proper trail etiquette that if someone is kind of sniffing your asshole, you just say like, hey, would you like I think proper etiquette is to not sniff someone else's asshole, but but when it
I
happens,
think that's canines. That's
yeah,
canines.
yes, well, I love dogs, so like, you know, but proper etiquette is when someone is catching up to you, you ask like, would you like to pass me, or I'll let you go whenever there's a good chance, and just communicating. This way you're not blocking 50 people behind you, and if you do that to other people, hopefully people will do that to you, and when you have energy and you want to go fast, you're not blocked. Funny enough, I don't think this trail etiquette is true everywhere in the world. Based on where I've raced, that has not been the case, and there's place that I've literally asked, would you mind if I scoop by you, and they said don't. I was like, what? Like, this is not what you're supposed to do at Leadville or any race in the US. If someone is faster than you, let them go. Like, it's not a race, and if they're faster than you, they're faster than you. Let them go. It's gonna be safer for everyone.
Outbound at Turquoise Lake, you're going to be passing people that are going the same direction as you. But later on in the race, you're going to be going down Hope Pass and into Winfield as people are coming at you. And it's inevitable. It's a single track trail. There's no more pacers, luckily, in that section, because it was just so overwhelming with pacers. And we are both racing, right? I mean, we're racing ourselves. I'm racing me from last year. I'm trying to get my 10th done. You're here for whatever time it is for you. You're trying to do your thing. And your race isn't more important than mine, and mine isn't more important than yours. And so when we're passing each other in opposite directions, there's should be an uncommon rule of just stepping to the side and passing, and then keep on going in our own directions. I see a lot of the back of the pack feel expectations that they need to step completely off the trail and let runners go by them that are way hours in front of them. And I'm like, no, this is my race too. And every time I step off for 3-5 seconds for hundreds of people, that time is going to add up. And that might make or break it to you getting to Twin Lakes inbound.
It's a great point, actually, because it's actually, I feel that sometimes it's hard to know what you're like. Let's say it like the what's in the book trail etiquette is uphill runner or hiker as the right of way. So that's the default, but it's a little tricky. Like when I'm going up Hope Pass, and then you have the first place runner coming down, I feel, yeah, I'm going uphill, but like, I'm not expecting David Rush to just step aside and let me slowly crawl up. Like, no, he's first place, he's elite runner, I'm getting out of the way. No matter the circumstance, unless it's unsafe, I will always get out of the way for an elite runner. And then sometimes it's tricky because sometimes there's a discrepancy between like the top 50 male runner you will see, and then you start seeing top like 3 female. I mean, 50 is maybe a little deep, but like at some point, like when I'm getting at around like 20 guys, I'm like, you're faster than me, but we're reversing to a default situation. And then the flip side of that is when I'm going uphill Hope Pass on the way back, and then you have people that are chasing cutoff, that 10 seconds can make a difference. Like I feel bad when there's, like you say, stepping aside. Like I know that I'm going uphill. You're doing the right thing, technically speaking, but I feel that no, don't do that. Like you have right of way, like you don't have right of way, but I'm giving you right of way. Please don't slow down. But it's all about communication sometimes, and most of the time, like you can actually kind of scoop by without anyone truly slowing down if you're like a little like. So it's about communication. We had a question that was what qualifiers do you recommend for someone with a history of primarily doing West Coast races for Leadville?
Gosh,
you want me to give it a shot?
Yeah, I was gonna say you've done a lot more racing. I'm not sure what's more comparable to like Leadville.
Yeah.
I mean, I think altitude is one issue, and we talked about like Run Rabbit Run as a precursor to Leadville. But if you're doing would you say East Coast or West Coast? Either way, if whatever coast you're doing, hundreds. I mean, I think you're there. Leadville's an entry level race. It's not all that crazy. Hello?
Yeah, sorry, I'm reading
What
the
happened?
comments. We can see them. They're being silly. I appreciate silly comments, by the way, guys. So the more comments, if they're silly, I can make the distinction between you're joking or not most of the time, and I appreciate um, some of those that are here. Yeah. So one of the distinctions first, like what Leadville is not like Western State. You don't need a qualifier. I don't think there's qualifying standard for Leadville. If you've never done a 5K in your life and next year you want to sign up for Leadville, you can put your name in the lottery and you will have as much chance of getting in that than I will. That's the way it is.
Probably more than Simon, quite honestly.
Yeah, I mean they don't really like me, so it's cool. But I'm wearing like a volunteer shirt from another race. Like I'm being a total asshole today. I didn't realize until I did that. But anyway, but it's good to come in prepared. And I don't think the specific race matters so much, but I would recommend a lot of people come in Leadville as their first 100 mile. And I don't think that's super smart. I think Leadville is a difficult race and it is a fast race. I would recommend anyone to at least do a 50 mile or 100K before that, ideally with some altitude, ideally with some climb. If you would do any other 100 miler like to prepare for it, I would also advise doing something that is 30 hours, just to get used to. You can't just decide to dial it down and walk all the way. Like for example, like I love, this is probably Zion, right? Vacation race. Yeah, I love Zion. Zion 100 miles is my favorite race. Well, no, it's one of my favorite race, but I would not recommend that as a like preparation for Leadville, because I think you'll get the wrong habit of, well, if it goes wrong, I'm just gonna slow down, even if it's the beginning of the race. That's not something I would recommend for Leadville. West Coast, there's so many cool races though. Like if you're like in California, I mean, San Diego 100 mile is arguably as hard or harder. It's not at altitude, but it's pretty badass. So like if you can do that, do that. I did the Leona Divide 100 mile recently. Loved that race. Like that was really fun. And it's, as opposed to Leadville, you can just sign up like this and you're gonna have a great time. It's decent preparation, more single track, probably more climbing. You just don't have the altitude, so then you will just add the altitude to that, and that's it. And actually Leona Divide had tight cutoff. I suggest anyone doing Leona Divide to study the cutoff, because they almost cut me off, not realizing how some of the cutoff were like, wait, what? Like I'm so much ahead of the overall cutoff. But that's how it felt at Leadville a little bit. All right. Sorry, reading.
Maybe one more question. What do you think, Simon?
I have a bajillion question, my friend. I'm
okay.
sorry. But do you have to go? Because if you have to go, I can finish up by myself. So I don't want to hold you too long.
I'll take two more because it is 8:15. I think we've been at it an hour and 45 minutes.
Okay, yeah. Then we're gonna be fast. How fast do you have to run at the beginning of the race, or how would you pace to do a sub 25? How much is that affecting your goal?
So I think sub 25, what is that? Is it 14, 15 minute miles, right? And 24 is 14 and a half or something like that? 14 and
yeah, like
14
miles. Something for a 24, yeah.
Yeah, so 25 is probably 15. I'm making big numbers here, or like whole numbers. But it's probably a 15-minute pace. But you know you're going to have a lot of attrition on the climbs on the way, and, at the halfway mark and on the way inbound. There's a lot of runnable material on the way out. I don't know if there's a specific pace that I could say that you could do that in, but I think just keeping an eye on using that cheat sheet of the Excel file that you were talking about, that's online somewhere in the world, on the Google world, and kind of figuring out where you need to be along the course, because you're going to slow down in spots and you're going to be able to run in spots. And so I don't know if there's I wouldn't say like a 9-minute mile is like a 9-minute mile to Twin Lakes is the way to go. Like I have no idea how you run or what your strengths are. Maybe you go a little slower because you can climb well, or maybe you're running a little harder because you climb slowly. So those are things to consider. Sorry, I don't have a straight answer for that one.
Yeah, I think for me, I can't remember the exact. I might be wrong, but I feel I was at Twin Lake outbound at 11. Does that make sense, Brian, or that sounds crazy? 11 in the morning or 11:30, and then on the way back, I was probably around 7 or 7:30, It was definitely
Okay.
before.
Yeah,
I was on the way
I
back to Twin Lake before sunset, whereas every time I did it over 25 around sunset. And it's not a big difference. Like we're talking like 30-minute difference, 45-minute difference. Like I said before, it's more that afterwards I maintained the pace, but that was a good sign for me that I still had the energy. Whereas when I come in like Twin Lake inbound around sunset, it's because like I was drained. Like I couldn't
yeah.
keep up.
That's so funny. As a repeat offender, I know specifically where I'm at according to where the sun is at in the sky. I actually have no idea what time I make it to Twin Lakes outbound, but I do know inbound. On my good years, the sun's still up, or I have a little bit of light to get in, and I'm not using my headlamp. On the questionable years, I've had to cross the creek with a headlamp on in order to get out of the swamp and into Twin Lakes itself.
Yeah. But and if you're just looking for a sub 30 and sunset is happening around Hopeless aid station, it's still doable. That said, you're gonna run the downhill potentially in the dark, and you might slow down because of that. So if you can be down the hill before sunset, that's a huge difference. Like you're and we're not talking you're wasting 5 hours. Like you're wasting 15-minute, 30-minute of going a little slower with the headlamp. Whereas as soon as you're like in the kind of valley where the river is around Twin Lake, and then afterwards, the fact that it's dark doesn't really matter because you're on flat, it's not technical, then you go uphill regardless of how technical it is, it doesn't really matter. So it's not going to slow you down that you're later, but it will otherwise. Okay, we have a question. I'm thinking of carrying a handheld bottle with a filter cap to refill from streams along the course and carry less fluid. Carrying 1200 cc toll between handheld and belt. How frequent are stream crossing, particularly thinking May Queen to Twin Lakes section as it warms up?
I ran. There is not a drop of water there between those two sections right now. There may be a little trickle of a creek. It left my house when it was raining, so it may have rained in Leadville today. But western Colorado, from about the divide down, is in a drought. Like we're in the red zone. Like we're in fire danger all across the western slope. And in Leadville area, or it's skirting Leadville. So super dry out here in Colorado right now. I would suggest that's not a great idea, but I like the filter idea, and you could do that on Hope Pass. You're next to the creek on the way up Hope, down the back, and then when you get into Winfield, you cross on a bridge, a big creek. So you can go down to the water's edge, re-scoop water. But of course, you're at the aid station already as well. Yeah. But there is water on Hope on both directions. So that might be a better viable option for you. But between Twin Lakes and May Queen, there is not one drop of water that I recall. And I just was there last week.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not super keen on the idea. There's good elements to it, though. From the start of the race up to Twin Lakes, like around Turquoise Lake you won't need because it's dark. Like it's Matt Rogers. Thanks for the question, Matt Rogers, by the way. He focused like May Queen to Twin Lakes, and it's true because before May Queen, who cares? Afterwards, yeah, there's not many options, and the trade-off is like you're carrying a little bit less weight, so maybe you're going a little faster, but you're gonna have to stop at the stream that may or may not exist, but in this case don't really exist. I think you're not gaining so much from saving that weight. When you're going to go up Hope Pass, you might have some streams that could be practical, but I would highly suggest that you have at least a rain jacket and a windbreaker. It depends on the weather. Like you can look at the forecast, but just going without a vest or anything, if you're fast, you're going to be fine. If you're going back towards Twin Lake on the way back and it's towards nighttime, you might have a thunderstorm. It might be really cold, really windy. I would suggest a vest on that segment personally. The way I do it usually is a belt for the first 40 miles, and then afterwards I take a vest. And then afterwards water is not really an issue. So I wouldn't recommend that. I like filters though. I like filters on 200 mile, but this just doesn't seem quite the race for that.
There is two creeks that you cross right outside of May Queen on your way on the Colorado Trail. You're on a footbridge. There's a pretty good raging creek, but you're probably within a mile to a mile and a half of the aid station itself. So it's not way down the road. You probably still have a full bottle already. But if you are going to go that way, I would suggest trying to carry a third bottle and just using it as a supplement. The bigger stretch from Outward Bound to Twin Lakes, it's really exposed. It's really dry.
Yes.
Lots of sunshine. It's early to midday in the afternoon, maybe 10 to 1 in the afternoon. In that time frame, those 3 hours, you're moving through that section, and there is little to no water on there besides the aid station. So if you really want to try it, you could keep the filter bottle on. I keep a filter bottle on one of my bottles when I'm in training, just in case I run across water, but I'm always trying to refill it some other way as well.
Yeah. Do you know if they have mini helper this year?
I have not seen Mini Elbert water drop station. It's still on their map, but I think their map is old, so I haven't heard the most recent update. So Mini Elbert is a water drop station between
Half Pipe and Twin Lake.
Half Pipe and Twin Lakes, which is an 8-mile section, and so they try to cut it in half, roughly about 4 miles in, where this service road for a campground crosses the Colorado Trail that we're on, and last year they did not have that water drop, but I think it was like during the event that they didn't have the water drop, or if it was the year before.
I mean, the problem with that is sometimes there's no water left, so they don't want to be liable to saying like we will have water. So I don't know if they're just like not gonna have it at all, or they're still gonna try. It's hard to rely on that because of that. But the question is really good though, because the mindset is water and fluid is an issue between May Queen and Twin Lake. It's gonna be hot if it's a hot year, and these are long segment and you're running fast, so you have to think about that. You have to think about salt. So hopefully that's helpful. Sorry that it's not the solution you were looking for though, but yeah. So Brian, you need to run. I'm gonna answer the question that I have remaining, but I really want to say thank you for joining, sharing your wisdom with us. Always a pleasure. It was great to catch up after the Buckle Up podcast. I mean, I left. We're still obviously friends. It was a matter of not having the time, but I'm very much looking forward to be there, Leadville. Hopefully your 10th year buckle. That you will be wearing to assert dominance, like people in the chat were saying. So thanks for joining, and have fun at URA. Yeah.
If you haven't met me in person, I'm a smaller adult, so I think this buckle is going to be bigger than my hips. Actually, I think it's bigger than my hips. I don't know. I think the only place to wear it is in Leadville, and that's where I currently wear my large buckle because you can't wear it anywhere else. It's too obnoxious. So hey, thanks, Simon. I appreciate the invite. I love talking all things Leadville. I'll jump back into the chat here later when I get 40 minutes down the road to URA and check out my runner. I'll jump into the chat and see if there's any questions I could help answer as well. So feel free to reach out to me and ask questions as they pop up as well. Thanks again, Simon. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Take care. All right, folks. All right, let's get to the question. We'll try to be efficient. Sorry. Boop. Gotta catch up with the chat a little bit. If I make it bigger on the screen, it would actually help me. So I could. There you go. Oops. Oh, interesting. Okay. Sorry, just catching up in the chat. Passing the right. Yeah, when passing someone, I mean, I have this joke, okay, when passing someone on trail, that if I tell them on your right or passing on your right, there's literally 30% or 33% chance that they will move to their left so I can pass on the right, 33% chance that they don't move at all, and 33% chance that they move to the right. So I don't even know what to do anymore. But sometimes I spook them, and then I feel like I need to apologize to them because like I was being really loud and hissing and puffing, but they didn't notice me. So it happens, right? It's like that. Yeah, let's move that back here. Yeah, third bottle from Outward Bound to Twin Lake is money. Yeah. I think I have that some years. It's good to look at the weather forecast. If it's gonna be hot, like think hot, and there's a lot of things that you can catch back in a race. But if you're dehydrated or low on salt, Sometimes like it's a dead end. Like, yeah, of course, if you were given enough time, you would kind of climb yourself out of that, but not a race like Leadville. And it's good to keep in mind that altitude will make dehydration so much worse, that when it's hot and you're at altitude and you're not drinking enough, like you're screwed, like you're really screwed. And keep in mind that you're arriving at Twin Lake and then you're climbing Hope Pass, which is the most difficult segment of the race. The year that I threw up from a salt pill, which was kind of ridiculous, I was right before the climb. I got dehydrated, and that made the race terrible because of that. So if you're doing that to yourself by not drinking, it's going to be pretty challenging. We have some thank you for Brian. I mean, Brian is awesome. I don't want to say it to his face, but he's such a great guy. Well, of course I say it to his face, but he's a great guy, and I really appreciate that he took the time for that. Obviously, he was on the road, he was busy, so really appreciate it. And I really hope that this live feed is helpful. By the way, if you think this is helpful, well, first of all, like leave a thumbs up, comment in the regular comment section, but also let me know if there's specific race that you think me doing that and finding a guest that has a lot of experience on that specific course could be helpful. Like I'm thinking race that I know very well, like Zion 100 mile or Javelina 100 mile or like Cocodona even. I'm happy to do these. Of course, it takes a lot of time, but I know that it can be helpful. And myself, when I was doing these races for the first time, I wish there had been things like that. So let me know in the comments, just ask it. I'm not saying I will necessarily do it, but I will try at least if it's possible to do it. And knowing what is helpful from my point of view. Already someone asking for Javelina. Yeah, I think we're going to do that one because it's one that you can learn a lot from someone who's done a lot of hot race. I'm going to take some of the questions that I had on Facebook and I'm going to spill them out pretty quickly. Sorry, I might not show them on the copy paste here because it takes a little longer to do that. Actually, I will copy paste it. Sorry. Okay, so the first question, well, there's two questions on this one. Oops. How to handle the start getting ahead of the conga line? How much does it matter? We talked about it a little bit. I think what I did not say is how much it matters. I think it doesn't matter as long as you're not on the back end. If you're really on the back end, you're screwed. Like you're with people that go really, really slow and you're going to have to pass. But as long as you're, and a lot of the race I do like that, as long as you're with the bulk of the runner, since the bulk of the runner will finish, it's fine. And it can be stressful or annoying to be stuck behind people that go slower than you. But when that happens and you cannot do anything about it, like just take a chill pill and eat and drink and save your energy, because you will have the opportunity to pass them at some point, or it's going to be after the next aid station. But instead of being tired from the segment, you will feel rejuvenated and your aid station stop will be faster. You will go out the door of the next aid station faster. So globally, it's not going to affect it so much as long as you're not like forced to walk, as opposed to at least jogging around Turquoise Lake, because the first 13 mile, like you should really be jogging. Like there, if you're walking the first 13 mile, you're really going to struggle. What to expect for the return over Hope Pass, physically, emotionally, and mentally? It feels good. It feels really good to, even before you climb the way back, it's physically challenging. It's the steeper part of the course, but it's shorter lived than when you did a Hope Pass for the first time. And you know that this is kind of this is it. Like I got to make it to Twin Lake before, and then I don't have like the cutoff in front of me, but like before like 9 o'clock, like that's my goal. And you aim towards that. And you know that if you make it in time at Twin Lake, like Brian said, with 15 minutes from the cutoff, as long as you're not totally breaking down afterwards, you can walk a lot of the rest of the course. It's much slower. You just got to keep rolling and be efficient at aid station, and you're going to make it. So it's a relief. It's also such a great relief to finally have a pacer or a crew, if you have one. It almost feels like for the first 60 mile, I have responsibility of finishing the race. And as soon as like I meet my pacer, it's like, oh, like take this. What is it? Well, that's the responsibility of finishing the race. Like you have to make sure I finish. Now, of course, I don't deal with it that way, but it feels that way. Like I'm not the only one anymore that needs to make sure that I don't get lost, that I eat enough, that I drink enough, that I'm still with it. Like someone else is with me, and that is really reassuring. So it's true that once you do Hope Pass the second time, and even doing it, like it feels really good, even though it's physically tiring. And it feels like an accomplishment. I think some of the segment, especially at Leadville, are like around half pipe. It's on the road, dirt road. You're just running on flat. It's super boring. It doesn't feel like an accomplishment. You're just doing what you did in training. But when you're doing Hope Pass, like you're badass. Like you're doing Hope Pass, and now you're doing it again. Like yeah, like you can even see like on the profile of the course, like it goes. Oops, like yeah, reverse is so difficult. Okay, it goes like this, and then it goes like. And like that's what you did this huge spike, whereas like power line, like you see a little swoop on the profile, but Hope Pass, like oh yeah, you did something. So that feels very rewarding. So we have a question about night running, and I have a full video about night running more broadly on my channel, so I do suggest that you have a look, because I think there's a lot of things that we do right and we do wrong about night running. The good thing is that Leadville is not so technical, and the segment that you will do at night, except if you're going down Hope Pass, but most of them are not really technical, so it should be reassuring that you can do it, and you're past the time where you have to be going fast. Like if anything, the worst night segment that you have is the first morning around Turkles Lake, where you have to kind of go. There's probably someone right in front of you, so you don't have visibility as much on the trail, and you're distracted by things. You might want to pass them, and you're going fast. That's where you're going to trip on the rock and hurt yourself. So the trick here, when you're following someone at night, leave a little bit of, like a little more distance that you would normally. Like you're not going one step behind them. Like leave some buffer period that you can actually see rocks and obstacle. And then it's practice. If you're used to running at night on something that is semi-technical, you're not going to be phased as much with like what you could encounter. Your eyes will be used to knowing what you should focus on and what is not relevant. And the last piece is, at least for me, I think either having a waist lamp or holding your light at the lower instead of a headlamp can help you see the perspective. And for a lot of the time, it doesn't really matter. But for a place like around Turkles Lake, where you have a lot of smaller obstacle, seeing the shade being overcast will help you see these obstacles. They will appear a little bit sharper and bigger, and that will help you feel more confident that you're not about to just like tip your toes on them and face plant. For the gear of that you need, I do have a video on that. Like I don't want to go through too much of the detail, but you really don't need much up until Twin Lake. You need enough water, and we talked about that. Like 2 bottles is a little short, especially if you're a big sweater. Make sure you have enough fuel. But other than that, in the first 40 miles, you barely need anything. When you're going Hope Pass, you have to keep in mind that this is Colorado, and in Colorado, you're very likely to have afternoon thunderstorm. With rain, with wind, and you're at altitude. So having at least a windbreaker and wind jacket is very helpful. Also, when you're going out of Twin Lake for the first time towards Winfield, so mile 40, and that was a question for a back of the pack or mid runner, I would say pick up your headlamp. You're potentially gonna come back to Twin Lake 20 miles later. It doesn't sound like much, like you're not even like 1 p.m. It's very likely that you're gonna finish that segment at night. So have the headlamp. It's not super heavy. You could have it at Winfield in a drop bag, but with that there's a risk of forgetting to pick it, or like the drop bag, like they just toss it anywhere and they just break your headlamp. Like if you're at Twin Lake and you pick up your headlamp, which a small tip, if you ever pick up a headlamp from any of your drop bag, before putting it in your vest, you take it and you make sure that it's working and that the batteries are working. Like it's gonna save you a lot of trouble that one time. So you make sure that it's working. If it's not working and you're at Twin Lake, there's a bajillion people around you and you will be able to find help. If you're at Winfield and your headlamp is not working, you're kind of screwed a little bit. So that's also something to be said about taking your headlamp at Twin Lake. Okay, that's good. Then we had a question from Gerald Wolf. So how quick out of the gate for 25? Okay, we talked about that. Then there was a question. I think it's still related to doing a sub 25. If I change my fueling strategy or fluid or any of these strategy as opposed to when I would go slower. No, I think it's more the other way around. It's more that I'm more likely, if I'm struggling with fueling, and it's not that the strategy is different, it's just that sometimes you just really struggle at eating anything and not being sick. If that happens, then I'm going to slow down, which then forces me to be outside of a sub 25. If it goes well and my strategy of 300 calories per hour with a mix of fast acting carbs, but also other things and some protein and some fat and some salt and drinking plenty as much as possible, and that goes in and I'm not sick, then I'm in position to do a sub 25. Also, make sure to drink a lot at aid station. You don't have to only fill up your bottle and then go. You can fill up your water, drink it, fill your water and go. And that's almost, it's not cheating, but if you're having 2 bottles and you chug one at the aid station and then you refill 2 bottles, it's almost as if you had 3 bottles. It's not quite the same because you're going to pee a little bit of it, but it's a way to game the system of how much you can actually carry. And it's going to cool you down. You know, what they have sometimes is a little colder than what you would be carrying on yourself. So you chug, and then you can go. Oops. I hope that was not too loud. And then let's go to the chat, and then we're going to wrap up very quickly. All right. Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, that's pretty much it for the question. So I really appreciate you tuning in. I'm sorry that it's a little bit slow, a little bit messy, but that's how we do it on my channel when I'm doing the tech and we're talking. Hopefully it's fun. Hopefully it's informative. I really appreciate all of the support on the channel more broadly in general. And I really hope that my videos, live stream in general, are helpful. That's really the goal of the channel. So thanks for tuning in. We'll see you very soon. I'm about to publish the Cruel Jewel video probably early next week. It's almost ready. Just need to kind of crack a few things, but I'll be on the road, so that might take a little slower. Then I'll work on Tahoe, and then Bigfoot is happening early August. If you're racing Leadville, I'm very likely going to be at Leadville, and I'm going to try to volunteer probably Friday at check-in, but I'm not sure exactly. Depends what they have available. My goal really is to support Brian, to support my friend that will be there, and to see you guys at Leadville. I'm not going to be racing it because it's like 3, 4, or 5 days after Bigfoot 200 and I have my injury. So Leadville for me is no for this year, but it's a great race. I'm wishing you all the best. Always keep in mind that it's 90% mental and 90% physical, and the training is over, so now you just have to suck it up, buttercup. But things rarely go according to plan at Leadville. That's my big lesson of Leadville. Always something goes really wrong. Like the year that it went well at first was when I choked on the salt pill, and then I decided, oh, I'm dehydrated now. And the ability to, there's this saying, like, it's not how many times you fall down that matters, it's how many times you get back up. And I think that's very true for Leadville, and that's where the grit of it is important. You can't just pity walk your way to the finish line. You gotta have a purpose and say, I'm doing this. Like, yeah, like it really stinks for whatever reason, but I'm doing this. I'm gonna find solution and I'm gonna push through. What you will find at Leadville, if it's the first time that you're racing, is that the community, even though I complain about some people, the community overall is very supportive. So if you have problems, you should really try and see if other runners around you could help you. People at Twin Lake will help you. The community is fantastic. That's why I'm going there every year. So that's it. So thanks everyone. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up, comment in the regular comment section, and see you soon.